University. Lisa, the session is in your capable hands.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the workshop on Unlucky Murphy. I hope I'm a little bit more lucky than him today and that the workshop goes as planned. What we're going to do is to start the workshop, we're going to have a chance to help out Murphy yourself. I will post the link in the chat so that you can try out one of the levels of the game that I've designed. And then if you guys are struggling, you can let me know through the chat and we can play the game together. So I'll just give you a few minutes for that. How is everybody doing? You're more than welcome to unmute yourself and let me know, or otherwise you can let me know through the chat.
I am just surprised that I can actually answer it correctly.
Good. Anybody else able to solve Murphy's little problem?
I've completed it.
Perfect. You're trying. Perfect. Thank you. You can just let me know in the little feedback section. Once you guys are done, you can give me a happy, a sad, a confused, a surprised, just to let me know that you guys are finished. Okay, awesome. It seems like most of you have completed the level. Good job. Good job for giving it a go. That was just a little sneak preview of what I've been developing for a nursing module. So let's have a guess at what I've done here. If we could just have the poll up, I want you to tell me whether or not you think this use of game is game-based learning or if it is gamification. If the moderator could just put up the poll for me, thanks. So do you think this was gamification or do you think it was game-based learning? Okay, I'm not seeing any results. There we go. Perfect, Great, you guys are all spot on. This was game-based learning. So just to quickly give you a little brief on what's the difference between game-based learning and gamification is that game-based learning is often more targeted so that it focuses on a specific skill, a core competency, or a task. While e-learning gamification uses game mechanics to track performances, progress, and spark intrinsic motivation on a larger scale. So this will be done through things such as your leaderboards, your badges, your points, and incentives. However, the similarities between these two approaches is that they're higher in experiences, which encourages and speaks to adult learning. Okay, how's everybody feeling? Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, perfect. Looks like everyone's happy. So it's okay if you're feeling a little bit in the dark about how to design, especially if you're not a game designer. But that's also okay because we're now going to look at how I went about designing the game as somebody who is not a game designer. Firstly, I had to look at the learning theory that I was going to employ because obviously the game is done with the sense of purpose, right? So I looked at Kolb's learning experiential cycle, and this cycle has 4 basic principles to it: the concrete experience, the reflective observation, the abstract conceptualization, and the active experimentation. Each of these points in the cycle are activated and present in game-based learning. So I thought that this would be quite a good approach to base my my game on. So what we also see is across the x-axis we have the processing continuum, which shows us how we approach a task. So we're either going to feel or we're going to think about the task. Okay, and then on the y-axis, the perception continuum, this shows us our emotional responses to tasks. In other words, how we think or feel. Sorry, the previous one was do and watch, and then this one is how we think and feel. And then inside the circle, we've got the 4 different personality or learning types. Do we have an accommodating learner, a diverging learner, an assimilating learner, or a converging learner? And the reason I chose Kolb's experiential learning cycle for designing this game was because it speaks to these types of learners and it accommodates for all types of these learners, which does, and I'll speak to this again a bit later, but it does its best to become accessible and to become equitable for different types of learners. So I used a couple of design principles, and these were accessibility, alignment, engagement, equity, inclusivity, and relevance. The first one is that of accessibility. So I employed this principle by making available to the students free, accessible, and a low-stakes environment, and allowed them to explore the content on a different platform. So not just giving them a reading, a PowerPoint presentation, a voiceover PowerPoint, a YouTube video. This is a completely different platform, something that they may not have experienced before. And I thought that this was quite a good way to make the content accessible to the students. The alignment was ensured so that each level of the game was aligned to a learning outcome and the content the students would have covered during that week. So the specific level that you guys worked with, they were busy with genetics in that week, and one of the objectives was to assess how genetic mutations affect maintenance of life. So then we go a little bit more onto engagement, and this is to encourage active learning, reflection, and interaction with the content. So what you guys just experienced in this game was a full-on experience, learning experience, with a great amount of interaction, and you actually had to think about what you were doing, and you couldn't just willy-nilly guess this answer or that answer because Murphy's life was in your hands, right? So that was on engagement. I've also incorporated multimedia using a game-based approach. which involves various modes of engagement. So that was looking at the point of equity. Murphy also introduces a multiple cultural contexts throughout his life. So throughout the game, Murphy's cultural context shifts and changes based on the scenario they get each week. This sort of looks at inclusivity and actually contextualizing something that the students will see in their professional careers, and actually encourage the inclusive nature of Murphy. And then in terms of relevance, promoting student-centered learning is accomplished, I believe. It is accomplished by Murphy. So we're shifting. This era of education is seeing a current shift from teacher-centered teaching to learner-centered teaching. So Murphy does that, I believe. So yes, so student-centered learning was definitely a goal of mine in creating this design and designing this game. So I also did it so that I did it in a way that I was able to. The student might not have necessarily gone through the content before they played the game. However, by playing the game, they would have needed to engage with the content on some sort of level. So it hands over that aspect of authority to the student and not to me as a coordinator saying, okay, this is what you need to learn. This is how you need to learn it. Right. Yes, Murphy definitely represents the real world, especially in some of his scenarios. It's something that they would come across as professionals, and I think that relevance to them is so important in helping them see the importance of the content. Yes, very similar to Super Mario, Simone. Thank you. So why use technology? What was the goal of this whole activity? It wasn't to have very many sleepless nights designing the thing, but I wanted to look at the type of learning that is taking place and whether or not the students are learning to just pass the test or if they're actively engaging in the content to be able to apply it. So this is what Murphy does. He contextualizes the content and forces the student to assess for themselves whether or not they've understood the content, not just on a level of repetition or on a level of rote learning, but to actively engage with the content. Then I also thought of asking, are we substituting the content or are we transforming it? Murphy transforms the content by allowing the student more opportunity. So they don't just have to read a reading, or they don't just have to listen to a voiceover PowerPoint. They're engaging with the content on an additional level, transforming the content from one platform to another in a way that supports each learning outcome. So the purpose of all this, Murphy, I believe, is an opportunity to incorporate different learning types and teaching methodologies in a way that is not just fun, but very intentional. Is everybody clear on how I went about designing these Murphy's game-based learning experience? Okay, awesome. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Okay, now it's your turn. This is a workshop, so so what I've done is, let me just grab the link for you and put it into your chat. So what I created is a little Jamboard where each person, you can pick a color of your choice, and you're going to go about designing a game. I would like you to take this opportunity to design a scenario centered around conflict resolution. I mean, we all come from different backgrounds, but we all have to deal with conflict in one way or another. So have a go and click on the link and Afterwards, we'll have a look at what everyone's done and how you would go about designing a Murphy. I'll give you guys about 15 minutes to do this, and then we'll come back and have a look and see what everyone's done. Also, can everybody just give me a thumbs up if you can all access the Jamboard and edit it? So yes, so essentially it is a storyboard, Isabella. So you're more than welcome to design it in a storyboard manner. That was how I went about designing Murphy. So that's the goal here. Simone, you could definitely incorporate a decision-based tree for the game design. That is actually a goal for another game that I'm going to design in the future, to have branching logic. Well, actually, guys, I have about 5 minutes left. Let me know if you need any more time. We are running ahead of schedule. So yeah, just let me know when you're done or if you need more time. Okay, does anybody need a bit more time? Maybe 5 more minutes? Or if you're happy, just let me know in the chat. Okay, let's call it there. Let's see what you guys have done. I'm going to share the Jamboard from my screen. All right, who is busy on this screen? Do you want to give us an idea of what you've done? You can just unmute yourself.
Lisa, somebody started with that first slide picture of 2 students in the cafeteria, and then I built around that. So that yellow line that starts with the zebra going all the way down and left to the orange slide, that was my scenario.
Okay, cool. Can you
I
give
hope
us
I
some
understand it.
No, it looks good. Can you give us some insights into how you thought this out, how you went about designing it?
So I was playing like a typical branched video in my head, or it can also be like an interactive video or even with slides. So you can something similar to what you can do with PowerPoint. So it was then you choose the character, and my character was quite neutral, but the character is not the person who has the conflict. The character was just a storyteller or something that can pop up with an idea or content or anything like that. I don't know the subject field so well, but then the scenario itself plays out in a real life. So you have the 2 students in a cafeteria, they are fighting, and then there's that choice that the person who is watching the video need to take, and that choice will be they know are you continuing fighting or what, and what, depending on what they choose. If they choose the right answer, then the right idea of this mediation or resolving conflict will play out. If they choose the wrong answer, not going too far with the wrong part, otherwise it's quite a distractor. It will be a lot of fun seeing that, but it's a distractor. But maybe in one extra scene all lying there in blood, and you stop and you say this was not the right way, and then you can have a discussion why that is not the right way to let it carry on, and then the same kind of thing following in the correct way. So then there's an option maybe for them to return also if they have the wrong choice, to go through the right choice option as well, and then again maybe ending with a discussion about the bigger picture of this topic.
Okay, cool. And what was, if you could just share a bit with us, what was your most challenging, what was the most challenging part of this experience?
I couldn't start. So when I saw the picture fighting, okay, the 2 students, then it actually gave me an idea. But I was looking at these things and I had no cooking clue what to do.
Yeah, so that's that's generally something we find with trying to come up with something new, is that it's new. So so it's quite difficult to come up with these scenarios and actually design your persona and design the scenario, and the persona needs to fit in with the scenario. And so what I did to mitigate that, I looked at I went about going with the scenario first and then creating the persona. So my scenarios were centered around, every week something goes wrong with this poor little person. And then I thought, okay, Murphy's Law, something is bound to go wrong. And so Murphy was born. Um, let's have a look at another page. I think Simone and Christine are working on this one. Would you guys like to give us some insight into what you've done?
Sure. So we created the persona of Samantha, the overworked intern, and
sounds familiar.
And actually, Lizelle is also working on this with us. So we said Samantha. So Lizelle put the scenario of Samantha is coming late to work for the last 2 weeks, and her direct supervisor called her in for a meeting, and Samantha is immediately on the defensive and starts to yell at her. So the idea of this is that Samantha needs to figure out how to lessen the stress and workload she is currently dealing with without compromising her internship. So went on to we created these decisions that she has to make. So if Samantha chooses to go see as the faculty psychologist, these are the kind of roads that she would go to. She can either at the end of the road choose to resign or sorry, I'm trying to think, or communicate what needs to happen to make things better, or she can continue to yell at the supervisor. The supervisor then doesn't take her seriously. Samantha then isn't her supervisor doesn't listen, and then Samantha is fired because her supervisor doesn't believe that she's fit for the environment that she's working in. So the idea of the progression of the resolution for the entire thing, that Samantha needs to explain to her supervisor her concerns for why she's late. She needs to give the supervisor and like she gives her supervisor attitude because she believes that it's the supervisor's part that she's overworked. So she's blaming her supervisor that she's under so much pressure and not actually sorting that out. And she needs to by escalating the conflict, so by yelling at her supervisor, she's not it's not a very good resolution because she's actually creating more damage with with the relationship that she has with the supervisor, instead of trying to find a very peaceful way to kind of figure out to say, I'm overworked, I needed more assistance. So at the end, Samantha could explain the hours and her hours, consider showing the different timesheets for how long she's been working, and then some of the deadlines are not realistic. So she needs to show her supervisor exactly what is going on, and that's what's making her late. So yeah, that's the kind of the decision tree thing we're going for.
Okay, cool. And this use of a decision tree, what is the motivation behind that? Because I mean, it's
I base a lot of yeah. I play a lot of gaming, and a lot of the games I do play are decision trees. And I find that decision trees allow you to then understand the problem, break it down, and then see where did you go wrong in the first place? How can then you rectify it if you do play this again? It's like the Super Mario effect.
Yes. And do you think that this speaks to something like in terms of the principles that we looked at, the design principles, do you think it's, you know, engagement and equity and those sort of things?
I definitely do think so. So yeah, I definitely do, because it's like it creates a lot of engagement because you have to really sit down and actually think if the decision is a viable option. If the path that you're going for is a viable option, then then become more engaged and you're trying to find out more. You're trying to be more observant as to what's happening in the scenario so that you can choose the correct path. And if you choose the incorrect path and you say, okay, where did I go wrong? What decision did I make that messed up this, and how can I go and fix it?
Right, that's spot on. I think this is quite a nice example. Yeah, so Lizelle has said in the comments that branching logic is quite good for critical thinking and reasoning skills development, and then reflection. And these are quite important skills for any graduate really to come out with, because the world is a place of critical thoughts, reasonings, and reflecting. I think that's quite an important part of every job. So Nandi, I see you mentioned the pressure. Do you want to go ahead and tell me which page is yours, and we can have a look at it?
No. I'm skeptical about seeing the examples that are there. My example is pretty dumb, so I don't think.
No. Everything is valued here. And do you want to maybe then a good question for you is, what did you learn by looking at the other people's examples, and how would you change yours?
I guess, like Marie had mentioned, picturing a suitable scenario is the part that got me. So the way to get to the resolve was quite short because my example was really, really simple. My scenario was really simple, and trying to design something that doesn't only apply to me and the way I think. So because I'm a broad thinker, or I look at the bigger picture. So my scenario looked at a resolve that is the goal, but the method to get to the goal sometimes doesn't always apply. So whichever method you use, as long as you get to the goal. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, and what? So you say you're a broad picture thinker, which is quite interesting. What do you think? How do you think you can sort of, because I suppose learning is, or learning experience is an experience of discomfort. So I'm going to ask if this workshop put you a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it did, and that's why I picked it, so that I can try to stretch my thinking a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Well, I hope it has. I hope it has stretched your thinking a bit. Let's have a look. Let's see. Tom and Bob. Who did Tom and Bob? Or Nandi, was that your one?
Me. That was me.
Okay, perfect. Do you want to tell us what you did?
Okay, so Tom and Bob are housemates and the scenarios, they're standing over a empty cereal bowl. So yeah, the first option is to pour the milk and then the cereal, and then Bob is the cereal before the milk. So who's right? Tom, Bob, or both? But the resolve is the goal is to eat the cereal. So the method, whether you pour milk or the cereal first, you have to enjoy the whole cereal.
Very, very tough topic of contention. I think this is really well thought through. Looking at the goal, like you said, the way you think is you see the goal and then you see how do we get to the goal. And so it's quite a good, yeah, especially like Lazar's mentioning the health sciences field. This is an especially good scenario for that, because at the end of the day, the goal for the health sciences is to treat the patient. How they get there might be different for every student, for every nurse, for every doctor, but they still get to the same or a similar resolution. So I think this is really well done, Nandi. Thank you. Okay, I see we've got about, I think about 20 minutes left. Does anybody have any further questions? I'd be happy to give you guys an early lunch. So, but if you have any questions, please do let me know in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. And if you'd like to reach me, you can email me on the displayed address if you're feeling a bit shy today.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there any questions? I see there's a few comments at the side, but not a question really. No more questions. Thank you, Lisa, for just bringing us back to where our thinking processes need to start, and sometimes how difficult it is, but we need to get through this. Otherwise, our end product cannot be the best possible. So thank you very much for the presentation. Just one more last time. Any other questions? No further questions? Okay.
Awesome.
Then,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, and thank you for everybody who participated. I don't know where my mind was, but I struggled to start, but yeah, at least I got to that as well. It's an early lunch for you. Please don't run away. Come and join us during lunch hour, 12:15 to 1:15. The Padlet is there for your feedback of the symposium. there is also the links to the lucky draw. Just remember, you need to be in the session to actually get your prize for the lucky draw. And then there's 2 other prizes as well that you can just go and vote for your best presentation, as well as put in a bid for a prize of 1 year subscription for a lecture with 30 students from an online library, Perlego. And then we also have our exercise session at 12:30 until 1. It's for 10 minutes. Yesterday we had a mobility session, and today it will be more a stretch session. Okay, thank you everybody, and then I'll see you a bit later.